Not only is that wonderful, but at that point, does it really matter?
Yeah.
Do we really need that distinction between initiative and epic at that point, right?
Yeah,
That's
I
a
was gonna
result.
say, yeah, exactly. That you might have just collapsed levels, and that's great. In fact,
Welcome everyone to another edition of Drunk Agile. Although tonight I think it's going to be unfortunately sober agile. It's a bit of
mhm,
shame. With me as always is a very sober Pr- Prateek.
Prateek saying,
Mm.
my water has bubbles though. It's
Oh,
sparkling.
yeah, mine doesn't. Mine, yeah. My name's Daniel Vacanti. Uh, I just got done playing tennis, so I'm a bit dehydrated. You play tennis
Yeah.
in September in Miami, you get dehydrated. I don't know what Prateek's excuse
I
is.
have I actually have a thing later in a couple of hours, so
Oh, okay.
don't probably better for me not to be drinking whiskey right now.
Fair
Yeah.
enough. But I think, didn't we establish? I think the rule is as long as it begins with W, we can drink it.
I think we keep changing the rule every time we
But
don't
I
drink
think,
whiskey. But that's good. The rule is that we change the rule to fit the
yeah,
exception.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, enough of that. We're gonna do a topic we, even though we're sober, we can't really remember if we've touched on this before. We're not sure that we have. We don't think we have. We kind of have. I want to talk a little bit about the effect of dependencies in a scaled environment, especially when it comes to forecasting. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, those are potentially two different episodes, right?
Yeah.
The effect of dependencies in a scaled environment, and then how do you forecast in a scaled environment where there are dependencies? Those are probably two different ones. But let's just start this and see where it goes. You've got your thinking face on. Did you want to say something about that?
No, I think the second one might require some more visuals, so we probably should do that as a separate episode.
Okay. Well, we can maybe make this one short and sweet and
Yeah.
talk about dependencies in a scaled environment. Should we quickly define scaling, or should we refer them back to our other one
We
before we get
refer
in?
them back to the other one, but let's do the quick one. Let's do the 10-second version of scaling.
Go.
We say scaling for the most part. There are multiple ways to scale. For the most part, we're talking about flow at a higher level. If you're usually dealing with stories, flow of epics, flow of features, flow of initiatives. That's what we're generally talking about. There obviously, even for us, there are other modes of scaling, but for this conversation, that's what we're mostly talking about.
Yeah, just to be clear, I don't know if I'd say at a higher level. I'd say at a different
Different
level.
level. Yeah, at a different level. Yeah.
Because it might be higher, it
Might
might be
be.
lateral, right? It might be upstream,
Mm-hmm.
might be
Mm-hmm.
downstream. But
Yep.
anytime you are extending flow beyond, say, a single team, or I guess that's not even true. Anytime you're extending flow, period,
Right.
whether it's a single team, whether it's multiple teams, that's what we mean. That's what we mean by scaling. If you want us to spend a little bit more time on that, because I guess there is some nuance in there that I don't know that we've never ever necessarily explored on this show that maybe we should.
Yeah.
Leave us a comment and we can talk a little bit more about what we mean by scaling. But assuming that we're talking about, hopefully everybody understands what we're saying. You're trying to achieve flow at a different level, upstream, downstream, different level of hierarchy in the organization. You're trying to achieve flow there. That's what I mean by scaling. Okay, period. Okay. Now, inevitably, when you do that, when you start moving to a different dimension, inevitably, mostly inevitably, dependencies are going to creep in, because we probably are going to be talking about different
Mm-hmm.
teams. And even if not maybe different teams, maybe even different people, maybe even different
Different
departments.
locations, whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. There's going to, maybe be a dependency somewhere. So I don't know, Pratik, talk, where do we want to go from that statement? I mean,
Yeah. It's things are really easy when it's one person or a few people who work together day to day, every day interact, and they are taking this one item and moving it through. When we're talking about scaling flow, what often happens is you start getting dependencies upon people or teams that don't work with you on a day to day basis. Um, For example, putting a checkbox on a page might not be something where you need to require 20 different teams to get something done. But rolling out a whole new initiative where you're taking your mainframe, your client server application into the cloud, or moving from embedded functions to something else across like cloud functions or whatever. Those kind of initiatives might require multiple teams to come together and accomplish this. When you do that, naturally one team is not able to completely deliver the thing it wants, deliver value, deliver the things it wants to do without help from another team or without another team completing a part of that program.
Now, if we pause there, because there are so many different directions we can go based on what you just said. There's so many different directions we can go because the the punchline the punchline that we're going to get to, by the way, and I'm just going to say it right now. I'm just going to steal your thunder because I know you're probably building to it, but I'm just going to say it. If you understand that what you're really scaling is flow, if you really get that what you are scaling is flow, then for me, the next logical conclusion from that is that your org structure has to match your flow, not the other way around.
Yeah,
Because the biggest, I think, and I thought this is where you were going with this, the biggest problem that we see when we go into organizations that are trying to scale, they've already got a rigid org structure in place and they want their flow to match their org structure rather than the other way around. Now, the reason that's important is because, and I think this is where frameworks, with all due respect to SAFe and with all due respect to flight levels and things like that, I think where most of these scaling frameworks fall down is because they kind of take that perspective of, have your flow match your org design. And if you come at it from that perspective, you immediately start thinking about dependency management.
right.
Whereas if you go the other way around and it's like your org structure should match your flow, now it becomes dependency elimination. I've said a lot of stuff there, so
Yeah,
I don't know where you want
we
to.
gotta
There are a
we
lot of
gotta
gaps. You could drive
yeah, let's
many
go through
semis through all those gaps that I just so start filling in some of those gaps for me.
let's go through it step by step. Let's talk about let's take just a random example organization, and we have a components team, we have an infrastructure team, we have a team that
We have a,
does
we have a front end team. We have a back end team. We have a
a front end team, a back end team, yeah,
DevOps
middleware,
team.
DevOps team.
Your favorite DevOps team.
We have a DBA team or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Usually, these teams are set up so that individuals within those teams can be very efficient because they have the expertise right around them and be like, oh, I need to figure out how to do this. The person who has done this 5,000 times is on my team, so I can tap their shoulder and understand how to do it. And many a time, projects or initiatives or features, whatever, are like, hey, go improve this part, this experience, and they'll go do it. As soon as that project or that feature becomes larger than improve this experience or develop this new component, as soon as it becomes deliver this thing for the customer, that's where what most orgs try to do, as Dan was saying earlier, is take that structure and figure out how we can map the different parts of this project to each of these and then line them up perfectly so that this gets delivered without any hiccups. When we do the forecasting episode that's parallel to this, we'll talk about the effects of those hiccups. But we all know that when you line up projects like this, any single project, and every single project has lots of scope to have hiccups, any single project having a hiccup can throw the whole thing apart. And those deadlines, all the deadlines, dates, whatever you want to call them, almost always slip because the 8 different things that you lined up, one of them is going to have a hiccup. That is when Dan says mapping your flow to your org structure, that is uh, what he was trying to get to. That's what most orgs try to do.
Okay. I guess now you opened up a whole new can of worms too. Um, even when Prateek's talking about the Tetris of lining these things up, um, the 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 big thing I think that we're not even going to get into probably certainly on this one. I think the big thing that really causes that to fail is work in progress, right? That's and it could be work in progress from hey, we got budget, so we need to start this project, or hey, production's down and we need to go solve that, or hey, this new government regulation came in and we got to handle that. Any number of things. It's almost always an explosion of work in progress that is what throws those things off. Which the reason I'm saying this is because, again, to us, that reemphasizes this idea of a focus on flow. If you recognize that what we really care about is flow through the organization, then that also means an emphasis on controlling work in progress at any of those dimensions of scaling that Pratik was talking about. And I think we touched on this. I think we did a feature with Monte Carlo, I
Yeah,
think,
yeah, we
episode,
did
so you can
definitely.
kind of see the effects of that. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that because this it always looks at the beginning of PI planning when you've got all your red string or whatever. It always looks like we can line this stuff up, and then all of you out there know a plan never survives contact with the enemy or whatever that quote is. Okay, so let's get back to what you were saying. So Pratik, we're trying to line all this stuff up, and look, it looks good on paper. We've got it, we've got it beautifully. Even though we acknowledge our dependencies and we know that, what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah,
Suba's got the answer.
yeah, she knows everything. But that's the so we've made this assumption that if everything lines up, things will be delivered. What we have preserved while doing this is that org structure. We have preserved the way the teams are done. The thing that we would challenge is that org structure really sacred enough to preserve? Is flow more sacred than your org structure? What if we went about this a different way? What if we tried to map out what is the usual way that an idea becomes valuable and that idea gets delivered to a customer and we verify value and create teams, whether static or dynamic, which we'll get into, uh, which can end to end take care of that entire structure. In other words, instead of have sorry,
Keep going, keep going. But
yeah,
I wanted there was an and to but keep going, keep going.
instead of finding ways to line things up and have all those dependencies that we need to line up, can we just have a structure that eliminates the dependencies so we don't have to manage them at all?
Yeah.
Um, Sonia locked herself in the closet. Just like,
Are you gonna go get her out? Yeah, okay. So while Pratik goes to unlock Suba, um, the and to what Pratik was saying before for me was this idea of now I just lost it. So you were talking about refresh my memory. You were talking about I got
I was
distracted for
talking
a second.
about how you've lined these things up, and your org structure is now the reason why.
Yeah, yeah,
Things
okay,
are-
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The and to that is that not it's probably a two-phase attack because um, even when you get your org structure, assuming you can get your org structure such that like you said, you have teams or whether static or dynamic that can deliver all this stuff, it still might be a function of how your value items are defined, right? That's a
Mhm.
whole other thing that we can talk about. It's like maybe this initiative is too big. Maybe the way that we are thinking about it actually is forcing us to have way too many dependencies? Is there a different way that we can solve this problem such that we aren't necessarily introducing dependencies by how this thing is defined? So that's maybe yet another, I think yet another Drunk Agile episode
Mhm,
that can be solved this problem. Because I had a very interesting question from, if I can just do an aside real quickly. I did a scaling training 2 weeks ago. Very interesting question from a participant in that class. And I don't remember the exact work breakdown structure, but it was something like initiatives into epics into stories. So let's just say it was that, initiatives into epics into stories. And we were talking about how to make we were talking about work in progress at all the levels. And we were talking about how to define these items.
mhm,
What is an initiative? What is an epic? What is a story? And we got to talking about how, at each one of those levels, you want to make those value items as small as possible. And one of the questions that I got was, well, Dan, what if an initiative becomes so small that it's really an epic? Which I thought was a great
yeah,
question. I mean, that
yeah,
I thought that was, I mean, they were obviously, kind of thinking this through until the end. And I was, it's like they're like, well, how would I ever know? How would I ever know whether this thing should be an initiative or an epic?
mhm.
And I don't know what your answer would be, and I think by your face, I think you would have answered it the same way that I did. It's like at that point, not only is that wonderful, but at that point, does it really matter?
Yeah.
Do we really need that distinction between initiative and epic at that point, right?
Yeah,
That's
I
a
was gonna
result.
say, yeah, exactly. That you might have just collapsed levels, and that's great. In fact, why can't every initiative be epic sized at that point? The that yeah, not only can not only can this is one of the reasons I like that whole dynamic reteaming thing from Heidi Helfen is because not only can your org structure be flexible, not only can your team structure be flexible, your work breakdown structure can be flexible, and your org can then adapt to it. Your business is going to change. The way you deliver value to customers is going to change. That should be reflected in your org structure. This is almost the Nicholas Taleb anti-fragile thing of make change so easy and make your org so flexible that changes in business, changes in work breakdown structure actually make your org better rather than your org being rigid and staying where it is.
Yeah, so so we've been all over the place in this episode,
We
and
were
I
not
hope
even, we're not
I hope, yeah, I hope all of you are sticking with us. But I mean, I guess I want to kind of get back to kind of the gauntlet that I threw down, at the beginning. And I'm not sure that we have, maybe we have more to say about this. Maybe we don't. I guess we always have something more to say about it. But I mean, given everything that we just talked about, if we go back to the original thing is, it's not about dependency management. It's about dependency elimination, right? When you start thinking about scaling, right? The challenge is, don't come at it from well, how do we manage all these dependencies? Come at it from how do we eliminate these dependencies? In the service of flow, right? Always in the service of flow. I don't know what else do we have to say about that thing, because that's technically what this episode was supposed to be about, right?
Yeah, and this is well, if you refer back to the previous episode, this all again, everything we talk about comes back to aging. Uh, as you're watching things age, those things are telling you. If you're watching your features age, your initiatives age, they are telling you that there are good reasons currently in your org that something is taking a lot longer than it should. A lot of times at higher levels of flow, at broader levels of flow, that is dependencies. That is things getting blocked because there are dependencies across. As we've always said, how do you what are some actions you can take to reduce aging? Um, Eliminating dependencies is one of the ways you go about it. One of the probably the key ways at a higher level to go about
Yeah. Oh wow. Okay. It just reminded me of like 50 other things that we need to talk about. I guess just one thing I would add to that. Um, Inevitably, inevitably when you start talking about, I'm using the, by the way, this episode will be sponsored by the word inevitably because I think I've said it like 16 times already. When we start talking about dependencies, sooner or later you're going to start talking about prioritization, right? I mean, we got to have that prioritization covered. Have we done? I know we have.
We've done prioritization.
We've
Yeah.
done, yeah, but we might need to go back and kind of revisit it because there was a lot there. In
Mhm.
addition to aging, the reason I'm talking about this is because in addition to aging, so many people, so many agile frameworks focus their energy on when to start work. Where again, if you're looking at flow, what you're really caring about is finish work. So we've said this 1,000 times. If your focus is on aging, the two best ways to prevent items from aging are to either finish it or to not start it.
And started.
And so
Yeah.
this is another thing to look at. Anytime your organization is, in the throes of prioritization debate, the number one question I would ask is, have we even finished anything, right? Why are we even having this conversation if we haven't even finished anything? So something to pile on to aging when you're looking at flow. Not only do we care about aging, but what are the fundamental things to prevent things from aging? Well, let's finish stuff and let's not start stuff. Anything else?
Yeah. I think we've dead the skills.
Um, there's a lot of good stuff here. I don't know how well this episode is going to be received. We've been all over, but this is where we want to hear from all of you out there in YouTube land or podcast land or wherever you're listening to this or viewing this. We hit on a lot of stuff. We hit on org design. We hit on flow. We've hit on dependencies. We've hit on prioritization. We've hit on
Aging on
work
yeah,
breakdown structure,
the breakdown
how
structure.
to define value items. All these are all topics I think that we've touched on in this episode that we could easily spend many more minutes, if not hours, on that. So please let us know which of those resonated. Which of those do you want us to talk about a little bit more? We can always come back. We'd love to hear from you. Um, Suba wants to know for sure what
She's yeah.
she.
I'm sure you all couldn't hear it because the noise canceling on this stuff is pretty good, but my ears are still ringing from the barking.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Actually, yeah, couldn't hear at all.
Yeah.
Um, Prateek, a final word to wrap us up.
Um, Try to eliminate dependencies, not manage them.
You got a big dependency right there.
Yeah,
That's
right there. Huge dependency.
don't want to eliminate that one. And so there you have it. Um, Dependencies, good, bad, ugly. What do you think? Let us know. As Hey, Suba. As always, thanks all of you for watching. Thanks for sticking with us if you stuck to the end of this episode. And we will see you in the next one. Good night, everyone.
Right.
If you like this content, all of you know how YouTube works. Please like and subscribe to this channel. We'd love to get your feedback and love to put more quality content out for you. Prateek, what else can they do?
Use the links in the description to reach out to us. You can find us on LinkedIn. See if there's a way we can work together. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we'd love to see you. Thanks everybody for watching, and we hope to see you again very, very soon.